welcome back. You waited so patiently, and here I am. I have returned. I wasn't gonna do another fandom video so soon, but I had a collab planned for last week. It got rescheduled. It's coming next week, so here we are. It's Game of Thrones week. It's time for season 7, and I am so excited. Like, really, I can't handle it. I'm so excited right now. Oh, look, it's a dire wolf. So, as requested, I am back today with another fandom conspiracy video about Game of Thrones. I have 7 crazy conspiracies for you guys. Ooh, good yawn. Some of them are completely stupid and totally unbelievable, and some of them just might be true, so hang in there. Are you just gonna bite me the whole time? You gonna be good? So we all know that Game of Thrones is a completely ridiculously complicated story. And with all the characters, even though most of them have died now, we still have no idea where the plot is going or who the main protagonist is even. So let's get into it. Here are 7 theories of where we're headed in Game of Thrones Season 7. Number 1, it will be revealed that Ned Stark is still alive. This states that when Ned Stark was imprisoned in the Red Keep, he actually encountered Jaqen H'ghar, who we meet later as a prisoner being transferred to the Wall. So it makes sense that they could have potentially been in jail together at the same time. Theorists say that Jaqen, who may have been paid off by Varys, helped Ned Stark wear the face of another prisoner and gave that random prisoner the face of Ned Stark, therefore sacrificing him and letting Ned scamper off into freedom in Westeros. This theory is backed up by how his body is later described by his family. When Joffrey shows Sansa her father's head on the wall, it's awful, it's terrible and traumatic for her, but she even says that the head doesn't look like her father's face. And later on, when Kat is brought Ned's remains, she says that his bones look too small to have been Ned's. So, I don't know. I feel like this is one of those that is really wishful thinking, and at this point in the story, I'm not sure if I even want Ned to be alive anymore. I feel like if he just popped out of nowhere, people would be like, really? Number 2, Bran will be the reason that the White Walkers make it over into Westeros. As we saw last season, Bran becomes a little irresponsible with his visions and trances, and he gets himself stuck in one. And he encounters the White King, who grabs him and sort of marks him with his little blue ice tattoo. And that is how the White King is able to get into the Three-Eyed Raven's keep and thus murder everybody, and well, we know how that turned out. So we know that this season Bran will travel back under the wall and be reunited with his siblings in Winterfell. So this will send the White King back under the wall and potentially destroy what is left of the Night's Watch, since we don't have any main characters at the wall at the time. Number 3, Varys is a merman. Don't click off. It's really short. Don't click off. This theory goes that Varys is actually lying about being a eunuch, and that is why he always wears dresses, that he is hiding his fishtail. Also, he is thrown overboard by Tyrion in the books and doesn't seem to mind. And he was cursed by that notorious sorcerer in the town of Myr. He also traveled way too quickly between Meereen and Dorne last season, so theorists think that maybe he swam. Alright, I'm sorry, on to more serious theories. Just go ahead and smash that unsubscribe button, please. Number 4, Jaime will kill Cersei. This isn't specifically a season 7 theory, but it's an endgame theory. Everybody knows about our favorite incestuous couple and how toxic that relationship really is. In season 5, we got a great flashback of Cersei and Ilya Martell as girls traveling into the forest to meet with Maggie the Frog. Maggie the Frog is a creepy sorceress, and I really like her. I hope they incorporate her more in the series somehow. But in the show, we only get a piece of Maggie's prophecy for Cersei. The 2 other predictions that are present in the book were that yes, Cersei would indeed be Queen of the Realm one day until she was cast down by a younger, more beautiful queen, who Cersei interprets to be either Sansa or Marjorie, though she's wrong. We pretty much know that that young, beautiful queen is going to be Daenerys Targaryen. Maggie also says that all of Cersei's children will die before her, and that once she has finished her mourning, the Valonqar will wrap his hands around her throat and suffocate her. Now, if you're not schooled in High Valyrian, Valonqar means little brother. And a lot of people assume that this means Tyrion, since he seemingly would have the most to gain from killing his sister revenge-wise. But I honestly think it'll be Jaime, because he's been hurt by Cersei equally to Tyrion, but in a very different, intimate way. I just think it would be better storytelling if Jaime was the one to murder Cersei in the end. Number 5, Tyrion is not actually a Lannister. This theory is finally gaining some popularity and it's made me so happy. I've been a believer since the beginning. So since the beginning of the story, Tyrion has been the black sheep of the Lannister family. Not only because he is a little person, or I'm sorry I'm gonna say it because they say it in the book, a dwarf, but also because his birth resulted in the death of his mother, Joanna, who was Tywin Lannister's beloved wife. And this is something that Cersei has never been able to forgive Tyrion for. But there are several valid reasons to believe that Tyrion is not actually a Lannister after all. Tywin Lannister is a lawful evil who puts the status of his family above everything else. Yet Tywin cannot stand Tyrion. And maybe it's fair to assume that he's ashamed of Tyrion because he's deformed, or maybe he's upset that his birth resulted in the death of his beloved wife. But it makes more sense to me that if that were the case, that he would love Tyrion because it was his last remaining remnant of his wife. But then Tywin openly admits that he wished Tyrion would die from the moment he was born. He was tempted to kill him himself as an infant. He refuses to grant him his birthright to Casterly Rock, even though he's the last remaining heir Tywin has that can produce children of legitimate nature. He even sentences Tyrion to death in season 4. Tywin's last words were even, "You are no son of mine." Now, yeah, he could have just been pissed that his son was trying to murder him while he was taking a shit. Or he could have meant that literally. So who is really Tyrion's dad? If you've read the books, you know about Aerys the Mad King and about his huge crush on Joanna Lannister, which was Tywin's wife, and how he took liberties with her for years. And there was nothing Tywin could say about it because Aerys was this crazy murderous king. Perhaps on one of those occasions, the Mad King actually accidentally got Joanna pregnant. It's also worth noting that those of you who haven't read the books, that Tyrion's appearance is way different than it is in the show. His hair isn't golden like a Lannister lion, it's platinum like a Targaryen. He also has heterochromia, which means he has 2 eyes of 2 different colors, which may be a nod to his mixed heritage. Aside from his obvious dwarfism, he's also a slightly deformed, which people think may be a reference to the incestuous bloodline which was Targaryen. They wed brothers and sisters for centuries because they were afraid of contaminating their bloodlines. This would explain why Tyrion is able to safely interact with dragons. He has the blood of the dragon. And why he would develop this really weird immediate connection with both Daenerys and Jon Snow, because this would mean that Daenerys is actually his little sister and that Jon Snow is his nephew. This further supports the theory that Tyrion is one of the 3 heads of the dragon, the other 2 being obviously Daenerys and Jon Snow. I like this theory, I believe it 100%, and I want it to be true. Be real, just simple as that. Number 6, Littlefinger is actually from House Reyne. Back in the day, the Reynes were the 2nd wealthiest house next to House Lannister, until they rebelled against the Lannister army and Tywin decimated the entire house and family. The last surviving remnant of House Reyne is the song The Rains of Castamere, which is the Lannister anthem, and it's played as a warning not to mess with House Lannister because you will get annihilated. They even played it at the twins as they murdered Robb, Talissa, and Catelyn Stark, so the victims would know who was swinging the sword. Alright, so that's all fine and dandy, that's official history, but how does Petyr Baelish fit into the extinct House Reyne? For starters, House Baelish was created at around the same time as House Reyne was destroyed, which is an interesting coincidence to say the least. Hold on, stay with me. Petyr's father is credited as the very first member of House Baelish, but there is no official documentation explaining how House Baelish rose to nobility. There's no reason for it. Petyr claims in the book and in the show to be of Braavosi descent, but nothing of Petyr's appearance would suggest that this is actually true. This theory goes that Petyr's father hooked up with Ellen Reyne after the attack. It was rumored at the time that young Ellen Reyne actually survived the attack, but after she failed to resurface in society afterwards, people just assumed that she was dead and that it was a mistake. So with what remained of her money, the wealth of House Reyne, she and Baelish got married and bought an insignificant piece of land in the Fingers. It's assumed in this theory that Ellen probably died when Petyr was little, and then his father, concerned for his safety, shipped him off to be a ward of Hoster Tully, and that's how he met Cat. So this would explain why Petyr felt so entitled to be able to rise in nobility and rank, and also that he could be entitled to wed a really high-born girl like Catelyn Tully. Because his parents, from the moment he was born, probably made it really evident that they had been screwed over by the Lannisters and they were entitled to wealth and riches and status and all that good stuff. It also adds a nice motive to why Petyr would have started the crazy chaos that is Game of Thrones. Remember, Ned Stark would never have become Hand of the King if Petyr hadn't had Jon Arryn poisoned, and his whole endgame could be to completely destroy House Lannister and take back his birthright. And House Lannister isn't doing so hot if you guys haven't noticed. If this is true, it adds an incredible gift of depth to Petyr Baelish's character. Maybe he's not just a sociopath. Maybe he actually has a legitimate reason for all the weird stuff that he does. I don't know. Don't kill me. I'm not a Littlefinger apologist. He's evil. It's just, to me, there has to be another reason behind why he does everything that he does. And finally, this is an endgame theory, so it has nothing to do with season 7. I mean, I hope not, because I don't even know where you would go after doing this. But this is the theory that Jon Snow will kill his aunt/future girlfriend Daenerys Targaryen. I know it's awful and sad and nobody wants to believe this is true, but I'm gonna talk about it for a minute. This theory states that Jon will be revealed as the second coming of Christ. I mean, Azor Ahai. Sorry. Right. Sorry. If you're not familiar, Azor Ahai is the guy 8,000 years ago who saved Westeros from the First War in the Long Night with the White Walkers. He's also the prince who was promised that the Red Lady keeps harping on about. Now, there is a ton of debate over who Azor Ahai is and isn't in the series, but most people agree that it's either Daenerys Targaryen or it's Jon Snow. In this theory, Jon is Azor Ahai, but Dany is still very important in a very sad way. Now, the legend goes that darkness will cover the world after a very long summer, which we know is what is happening now. Azor Ahai must then forge a sword, a weapon against the darkness, which is referred to as a thing called Lightbringer. Now, the legend said that the first time Azor Ahai tries to forge the sword, he tempers it in water and the sword explodes. According to this theory, the sword is just a metaphor for Winterfell. Somehow Winterfell is going to help everyone defeat the White Walkers. Somehow. The power of Winterfell failed when it was under the control of the seafaring clan of the Greyjoys, so it failed in water. The second time he tried to forge the sword, he went and caught a lion and put it through the lion's heart. Winterfell also failed when it was under the control of the Boltons, who claimed it in the name of Lannister, the lions. The third time he forges the sword, he, with a heavy heart, goes and grabs his beloved wife and brings her into the forge thingy. And then he drives the sword into his wife's chest, forcing her soul to be bonded to Lightbringer. And then he saves the world. Theorists believe that Jon's one true love may be represented in the young and powerful Daenerys Targaryen, even though that is totally incesty. But this is Game of Thrones, what else is new? Daenerys is actually barren, which is something that they don't really address in the show, but she can no longer have children. Her dragons are the closest thing that she will ever have to her own offspring. So by the end of the series, it is estimated that both Rhaegon and Viserion will have died, unfortunately, and Drogon will be the last dragon left. So in order to combine Jon's true love's soul with Lightbringer, which is Winterfell, it is assumed that Jon may have to actually sacrifice Drogon behind Daenerys' back in order to bind the two. Well, okay, what does Drogon have to do with all of this? Everyone knows that a mother's heart and soul is with her children. So it is assumed that if Jon sacrifices Drogon, Lightbringer will be a thing and will be successful, and unfortunately Daenerys and Jon will not work out in one way or another, probably resulting in Dany's death. This one makes sense like 90% to me. There's a few things that I'm like, okay. I personally do not really want this one to come true. I don't ship anybody in this series aside from Sansa and the Hound, but no part of me wants for Daenerys and Jon to end as enemies. I don't think that would be a good ending to the show. So there we have it. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm sorry for the weird setup. I'm moving. Things are a mess. There's a closet and a drum set and I don't even know. It's weird. I'm sorry. Things are going to be changing a lot in the next couple weeks because again, I am moving. If if that kind of thing bothers you, I wonder how you even function as a human being. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. I don't always do fandom videos. This is gonna be the last one for a while. We're gonna get into more serious, spooky topics soon, I promise. All the social media stuff is below, and if you guys would like to donate, I do have a Patreon. That information is also below. And thanks, I hope you have a good week. Hope you're not mad at me for not talking to you for a month. But if you are, I'm sorry, I'm a real person with real problems. The main problem is procrastination. All right, bye, get out of here, go, leave, bye.